Hey, this is Lain sitting down with Ross Field. We're sitting here in the podcast studio, just started a random conversation about deep thoughts with Ross and Lain. Oh, maybe that's what we call this, deep thoughts with Ross and Lain. The following conversation is an organic dialogue that just started to flow. We let it rip. And I think there's some stuff in here that can really help improve your quality of survival. More joy, less suffering, more perspective, more mindfulness, more... What do you think, Ross? More what?
More learning. I think the real beneficial element to this for me was being able to speak with you, pick your brain, and to learn from your years of wisdom as well as motivational.
I was picking your brain.
Okay, well.
I thought I was picking your brain. Well, you know, the You Go First podcast has video and all that stuff, but this is just us sitting down talking, and I hope that you enjoy it if you make it through the intro.
Yeah.
With that, here we go. Today, I'm Lain Hensley with my co-host, Ross Field. We are here to keep you updated to the trends, tips and tricks, and all the reasons why building your team, building your leadership is critical to today's success. Ross, how you feeling today?
Feeling really good. Coming straight from Antarctica with a sweet lid. And I've been thinking.
Whoa, Antarctica.
You just did a program in the Windy City, which is a wonderful place to have an event.
I did.
One of the things we've talked about in the past is where is the best place to have a team building event? You've obviously traveled the world. You've traveled the country. You've been to so many places, so many cities. What jumps out to you when you think about the best place to host a team building event?
Wow, best place to host facilities-wise or personnel-wise. Personnel-wise, I'm going to have to say Bangalore, India. Is the best place to host a team building program.
They're enthusiastic.
They're enthusiastic. The audience, in this case, it was an all-women's group, Oracle Women's Leadership Group. And 350 up-and-coming women in a community and a population where they're just starting to really understand the power of women and how impactful they can be. And the Indian people, for me, especially when you're in India, but also even in the U.S., are so open and willing to learn, to invest into themselves, always express a ton of gratitude for the opportunity to be in the program, always are really listening and learning and looking for ways to apply. So as far as the best place or the best people to deliver, and I hate to say best, but the easiest group to know that they appreciate what you do is the Indian population.
Well, it says something about you that a group of 350 women would choose a man to deliver a session like that. So the fact that you've done so much work with them over the years is a testament to how you are as a facilitator and how you are as a speaker and your engagement skills with a group like that. It's pretty cool gig you have going there.
Oracle Women's Leadership. And there's been some changes to that program, unfortunately, but definitely a highlight in my career was getting partnered up with them and feeling like I could deliver a message about how that it is a great day to be a woman as a man and a champion of women. Cool. My mom is one of my favorite women on the planet. My wife is amazing. I have 2 daughters. So across the generations, I appreciate what they brought to my life and how much impact they can have on a team and a culture.
Yeah. Well, didn't you do one program with that group in Singapore and you were able to take your wife to that sweet destination?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The River Sands, I think it's called, that hotel that looks like an upside down boat. I did take my wife to that women's leadership program in Singapore. I also was actually able to take my daughter one time to help facilitate that program for the Oracle Women's Leadership. So 2 trips to Singapore, 2 amazing women in my life got to share that adventure. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your daughter, she's been participating a little bit more in the Odyssey over the last year and a half and been in a position to help contribute to this wonderful company. Maybe a sign of things to come for the future. Obviously, she's very skillful and has a great work ethic and knows kind of what the Odyssey is all about. Could potentially be an amazing facilitator in the future. What's it been like to have Taylor on programs over the last year and a half?
You know, she's looking at, she was coming into the Odyssey fold right after graduating from ASU and is considering now going back to school to become a nurse. But she's grown up with the business of Odyssey, watching me travel. She's been a test subject of my philosophies when it comes to looking at human behavior, how much you're born with. And she certainly is definitely my daughter, has a lot of just the natural sort of qualities that got me interested in this work. She has just logistically and thoughtful wise about just like why she does what she does, thinks how she thinks. And she kind of went through similar experiences of like not really being in the in crowd in high school, but around the perimeter. And now as she's coming into her own, recognizing that, the in crowd in high school, maybe I was in the right crowd, the crowd I was in and the crowd she was in. And having her be a part of Odyssey, from marketing to packing bags to helping deliver programs, definitely re-inspired me. After 32 years doing this, it was fun to go, okay, cool, I can share this adventure. My wife is busy in other ways with our family, and it's fun when she goes on programs, but always fun to look out and see your own kid looking up at you and kind of beaming with pride, like, that's my dad.
Yeah.
It's been cool. I think participants really appreciate it when I introduce her as like the next gen, and they are always super welcoming and sweet to her, and that's been super fun.
Well, it's been cool to be on a couple programs with you and her and to see that interaction in those moments while you're delivering. And she's certainly phenomenal with logistics and handling business and holding it down for the Odyssey. And perhaps she has the toughest job as any facilitator right now, and that is planning a bachelorette party for her sister. I've never planned a bachelorette party.
I haven't either. No, I haven't. Planning a bachelorette party, I think, has gotten a lot more complicated in the last 30 years. I don't even remember my wife's bachelorette party, any drama or who's going or where they're going. And she, as a co-maid of honor with another gal, they've got their work cut out for them for sure.
It's just, thank goodness it's not during COVID, because that would add another layer of planning and preparation.
Wow.
Okay, so you've been on a few programs, lately. Done a lot since the new year started. We did an amazing team mosaic for Comcast California that spanned 5 locations, 5 different team mosaic masterpieces. Think differently was the theme. You were able to hold it down and facilitate to these 5 locations. You were beamed out to the Comcast California universe. It was really a great program to see and to witness and to be a part of. What was it like for you?
Yeah, well, Comcast, I mean, I've been a customer of theirs from the beginning, I think, of Odyssey almost, or beginning of Comcast as I know it. I think we had some local cable that, so I'm a customer. It was fun to be at their headquarters down Livermore. It was a little like the Olympics, let's send it out to Ross Field at the long jump, but it would have been fun to, I wanted to feel more connection to each of the locations. Apparently it converted for them. But I always love the interaction between as the presenter and the team. I mean, I had a couple hundred of them in the room at headquarters, which was awesome. And it felt great. The message of as the world gets bigger and technology becomes more and more a tool that we use to connect, we're losing that human connection. So even in a technology company that's commitment is to, connecting people to powerful moments, something along that
matters most.
Yeah, moments that matter most. That's in their mission statement. And that's what we're trying to do, connect people to moments that matter most. And what are those moments that matter most in our life? Probably the moment we fell in love and the moment someone broke our heart, the day we got a job, the day we got fired from a job, the day we got the sale and the day we lost the sale. It's like so many moments that matter to us are the highs and the lows, because they matter because they help us define who we are, how we see the world, whether we're optimist or pessimist, whether we're looking around the corner for something good or hiding somewhere, preparing for something bad. And to have some time with Comcast to really think about how do you think different? And think different doesn't mean like next time you're about to merge onto the freeway, hey, go the wrong direction. I'm going to think different.
Don't do that.
No, it's like next time you're stuck in traffic, think, I'm going to read some bumper stickers that I can't read at 70 miles an hour. And I'm going to just notice that, hey, I'm a part of traffic. So it's kind of my fault. I'm sitting here, and I'm going to think different about this time that I have to ponder my commute or my choices, and thinking different around in a big company. How do I really matter? And as companies get big and, conglomerates join others, it's easy for people to think different, is to say, I'm still really critical to this company, even though there's 100,000 of us. To think reflexively, you could say, this meeting could happen without me. I don't really matter. How much impact could I have? I'm just one person. And that's between us and our own two ears, if we let ourselves get to that thought.
Yeah, amazing. It was such a great program, too, and they produced such beautiful collaborative mosaics. They were tough images.
I know.
But the team made it happen. I was impressed.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, well, you got to hold down Fresno, and I wish I could have had an audio into your room. I know you had them lit up. And I know you had them thinking, hey, at some point the camera's going to show us, and we want our image to be top notch. And that's, that's reality. We don't always have competitive elements to our programs, but life is competitive, and it draws out the best in us to think, hey, at some point my peers are going to look at what I've done, and I want to be proud of it.
Yeah.
Call that competitive? Okay, but I call that just, peer pressure in the best sense. You bring out the best in me. I want to bring out the best in you. It doesn't mean I just go, sure, Ross, that's fine. I might say, hey, that's pretty good for now, but I think we can make it better. And we both challenge each other to that. So I love that. But I know you crushed the Fresno group, and I was so proud of our image as well. So
yeah, it was cool. Well, I would be remiss to say that I, haven't learned from the best. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking about how Lain would operate this room. And, I grew up playing sports, so naturally I'm a little competitive. And I think it kind of came out a little bit, and we got to represent and we got to hold this down, because when that camera comes to us, we better not have any missing tiles.
Yeah, I love it.
I kind of made it a competition, which is debatable on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I love it. Hey, you read the room. And you owned the room, that's what I want anyone on my team to do. Own your space. If that's your world, it's your world. Take the bull by the horns.
Yeah. And you said that, which I appreciated when during your facilitations. Time for you guys to own the room. I took that. You did. Yeah, I took that to heart. And I also was thinking about how this is an opportunity for me to potentially try and showcase that I can handle something like this, because I haven't really been put in a situation like that. So thank you for trusting me, and I'm glad it worked out in Fresno and in the other locations as well with our great Odyssey team. So.
Well, I've been wanting to put you in that pressure cooker more, because I know you can lead. You've seen and heard it 1,000 times. You've got those natural qualities that I would look for in one of our facilitators. So this is your year, bud.
Okay.
We're getting you the microphone, letting you take it. Of course, and run, Ross, run. I mean, you've been freestyling more and more with weaving in your philosophies on being uncomfortable and pushing yourself and being inspired and inspiring others, and what inspires you, and how doing hard things is so critical to us, becoming more than we are today. It's definitely the foundational formula of, human beings. The most beautiful thing is we can become more than we are right now. But it takes deliberate, conscious effort. It takes being uncomfortable. It takes discipline and all those good things.
Well, thank you. It's definitely been a pleasure to be in a position to edit facilitation from you, Bill, Todd, and other people within the Odyssey family who have led programs, and to have that kind of ingrained in my head. It only took 5 years for me to start getting out there and trying to make a difference physically. It kind of hit a moment in my life where it was like, what am I doing? Who am I right now? And so, and I do think a lot about what you say, your leadership, the lessons and values that we share with our participants when I'm out there running. And, I'm a testament to what you say matters and makes a difference to people if they're really dialed in and they let it become part of them, trying to be a sponge and trying to think, I don't want to go running in the rain right now, or I don't want to go climbing up this hill, but I got to do it because I need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and I got to put that other thumb on top. I got to go away from my reflexive tendencies and some of the other magic that is the curriculum you've cooked up for so many years.
Well, I love hearing that. I take a lot of pride in seeing you, think different. There was a point where, and Jim Rohn would say one of the most powerful words that motivate people is disgust. He's like, when you're just disgusted with something, whether that's the cleanliness of your home, your physical capabilities, some situation, a relationship, and you're just like, I'm just disgusted with this, and how that pushes us to think differently, which pushes us to take different actions. And whatever it was that flipped that switch for you when you looked in the mirror or were heading up the stairs to your office and thought, I'm winded, in these 12 steps. Like, I used to be a rock star high school athlete, getting MVPs for dropping threes at the game winner at the end of the tournament. Like, where's that person? And I didn't know that person before, but I see that person now. It's pretty cool. I saw videos of that person and thought, that Ross is in there. Yeah. And you've certainly chipped away at the parts that wasn't that Ross, and we see it now. It's so fun to see. And of course, I appreciate that some of that light bulb moment for you was a result of hearing the things that we have to say and the programs you've gotten to participate in.
Yeah, well, thank you. That means a lot to me. It actually, had something to do with being winded, waking up a few mornings in July of 2023, waking up and feeling like I wasn't breathing correctly. So it was time to start making a physical change, and I was disgusted. You just mentioned Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn, man.
Who are some other amazing motivational speakers that inspired you and left an influence on you?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is Carl Sarpoulos, my youth pastor when I was a kid. Oh, I love this guy. I can't even believe that when he quit being a youth pastor and became like a furniture salesman or something. When you're a little kid, you look at these people like he was probably like 22 years old. I don't know. For me, I thought he was 50 and had life figured out. But just listening to him speak, watching him, the way he carried himself with us as, 7th and 8th graders, was super inspiring. And then my mom would listen to Leo Buscaglia, the love doctor, they used to call him. He was a psychologist and teacher. If you look up any Leo Buscaglia videos from way back in the day, he was amazing. Mm-hmm. And Jim Rohn, of course, Wayne Dyer. All of which I never met Leo Buscaglia, but I met Wayne Dyer.
Oh, wow.
Used to converse with him. I met him in the airport. I just walked up next to him. He was looking at one of his books that had just been released. And I said, oh, you don't want to buy that book. I heard that guy's a quack.
No way. That's
and he
classic.
just kind of smirked and looked at me. He's like, yeah, I heard the same thing. And so we had a moment, and I told him about me and what I was doing with my life. And we exchanged communication. And I got some letters from him, and I still have one, like I can see it from my workspace. And it was very, very nice. So Wayne Dyer, Jim Rohn, Jim Rohn taught Anthony Robbins everything he knows, really. Anthony Robbins, if you listen to his stuff and then you listen to Jim Rohn, you're like, okay, I know where Anthony Robbins got his stuff. Oh, 100%. Anthony Robbins was broke and, didn't have any. He'll tell his origin story, and he got a job working for Jim Rohn and changed the way he thought, and he started thinking differently. And of course, his success is just global. But the roots of that success, the farmer who planted those seeds was Jim Rohn. But of course, he had to make them grow. But anyway, those are the people that really touched me. Of course, the people I work with now, the clients we've worked with, so many great leaders have trusted us with their teams, and watching them present maybe before I'm introduced. I'm a motivational speaker as much as a motivational listener. I'm always listening and learning and watching my own self still as a dad and a husband and friend and coworker, trying to be better.
That's cool. You mentioned a while ago about something that brings up emotional memory, those moments in your life when you get married, a big moment, or you get hired for a job, or you get fired for a job. It seems like experiences in our lives that are tied to emotional memory really stick with us and have an impact. And one of the things I enjoy about your facilitation and your motivational and keynote speaking is when you tap into some of the experiences in your life that have created emotional memory. And recently, after the Comcast experience, you fly out to the Windy City. You're in front of another group literally the next night, on the move, on the go, and you're delivering to this team with a lot of passion and enthusiasm around some emotional memory. Yeah. How do you tie in emotional memory to your facilitation?
Here's the word never been spoken in this way before: Emotion is the autosave for the soul.
Ooh. Clip that.
Emotion's the autosave for the soul. As when we feel something, our soul autosaves that, and it connects that feeling to whatever's happening around us. It was my dad and mom's 65th wedding anniversary that day. My dad would have been 90 just 2 days before. He passed, of course, on Labor Day this year. And, when we feel something, we remember it. So that when we got the job, we felt it, and we looked around our life and said, wow, good things are happening. I'm making progress. We got fired and we thought, oh, didn't see that coming. Ooh, maybe I need to learn from this moment. So when we create emotional moments for people, they remember it. Just like your computer, you can force a save. You can read a book and, put that book on your bedside table and, highlight it and put it on your refrigerator, and, you can force that autosave. You can force a save just like you do on your computer, and go in there and go, okay, save that, save that, save that. And it can happen. But man, when we feel it with every cell in our body, it's autosaved, probably for the rest of our lives. Or at least when we need it, we can link back to that emotion.
I love it. Emotion is the autosave for the soul. We need to put that on a bumper sticker or a T-shirt.
What are you feeling right now? Yeah.
That's good.
And what are you doing to create a moment where you deliberately shift whatever feeling you're having,
Yeah. And we put on a very unique event for this Medics team. Obviously, you and the CEO of the company have a great relationship. He's a wonderful human who really cares about making a difference and connecting his team to values that matter and giving back. And what was the experience like with them?
Andrew is a wild man. I love his emotion. I love his energy. I love his faith. He's a very strong believer in people and in purpose, and just that we're here for a reason. And he always challenges me to bring my best. And if you don't, he's going to let you know it, because he's so committed to his company and to the standard that he sets for them. So when Andrew calls and says, I got a challenge for you, and you accept, then you better bring your A game, because there's no option. So in this case, it's a big team. They earn their way to be there. They're very willing to learn and go for it. They've got a lot of energy. They're pretty young. And they were hearing from a speaker, or by way of a speaker, it's called giftology.
Yeah.
So giftology is sort of like what we've said forever, which is we're all in the business of giving. And they really broke down giftology in the spirit of, their program. It's a book, and then the program is to give these gifts to people. But they definitely believe that it's not just about the physical gift. Just like when we give a bike to a child, we also give them the experience of walking into a ballroom, meeting a bunch of strangers, facing stranger danger, and being the guest of honor for a little while. And for a 8th grade kid from the projects, they haven't been the guest of honor with like 300 corporate people ever. So their autosave is happening. And they get the bike, and they get to feel like people care about me, and they have something for me. And maybe behind the next door in my life, something good's going to happen, because that default message of the mind is when in doubt, danger. And in this case, their default setting was like, oh my gosh, what's about to happen? They open the door, and when in doubt, something amazing is happening. And these people love me. I'm on stage and I'm getting a standing ovation. And so with Medics, of course, we brought we threw the kitchen sink at them. We like to say we were building playhouses. We were building skateboards for kids in the area. And we were building bicycles. And we were also building bikes and a playhouse for the family, the mother and her 4 daughters of the gentleman who wrote Giftology and started that movement. And he has passed away, sadly, of a sudden incident with his heart, I believe. And they were there. It's only 4 months after his passing, continuing his legacy. And we were giving them the gift of the bikes and just honoring them for who they are and how they're carrying on. It's pretty emotional.
It looked like a tremendous experience from the amazing footage that Trevor grabbed at the event.
Yeah.
Certainly excited to put a video together. You mentioned emotion being the autosave for the soul. And this experience provided Medics with an opportunity to give back. But there's also an element of the autosave involving being motivated to deliver this same kind of enthusiasm to the everyday work, reconnected to the values and skills that these employees want to embody when they go about recruiting in their day-to-day operations for medics and other roles that they possess. You talk about the lifespan of the skills and values that our experiences give to participants.
Yeah, I mean, you're running, so you can run once and, maybe you just barely survive it and you'll feel good at the end. Be proud that you did it. But if you don't go again, you don't develop stamina. You don't develop an appetite for that activity. So, yes, we can provide a memorable moment, and we can link it to emotion, and we can link it to concepts around customer or around purpose or around collaboration. We can do that, but you need some maintenance. You got to go back to the gym and the day-to-day of like recognizing what's my purpose today. How am I getting closer to that vision I have for my life today with the choice I'm making right now? And a friend of mine, my investor friend, said, Lain, inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. That's a belief. I can get on board with that. There have been some big yard by yard moments in my life, but if I stay on the inch by inch, life's a cinch. I get that. If I save a little every day, pretty soon I'm a millionaire. Everybody, all your investors will show you, start now, because the sooner you start investing into the financial life you want to have in 30 years, the more compounded interest you get later. So I think behaviors are like that. If you start thinking, I'm going to listen a little more carefully. I'm going to speak a little more authentically. I'm going to show up a little bit more committed to quality today, just a little bit. And if I do that every day, by the time I'm later in my career, I recognize that now I've become the vice president of this company or the CEO of this company, or I'm leading huge regions, or have a client base if I'm a sole proprietor that's just thousands of satisfied customers, and I start experiencing the compounded interest of those behavior investments that I make day to day. That's the concept, and it's a reality. I think everybody knows it when it comes to fitness, but it's hard because it takes discipline to see that eventual return on investment.
Interesting. I went on a run streak last year where I was trying to do 7 miles every day. And I'd been running for most of the year. But I saw an interesting graphic. I've since joined a Fleet Feet half marathon and marathon training team.
Nice.
And the coach is helping me on my running journey. And this graphic and what the graphic entails is backed up by what this coach suggests in his knowledge of running. And it's that what people think consistency of running looks like. And it's a cup, and the water is filled to the top of the cup. And it's 7 cups, and the water's filled up to the same height in the cup. Underneath it says what consistency with running actually looks like. There's 1 cup that's full. The cup next to it is barely with any water. The cup next to it is half full. The next cup is full. And so people think consistency is doing the same thing every day with running, but really your life, and there's science to back this up, somehow, some way, your life benefits more from doing different types of running, different types of distances. And so I've tried to adopt that into my running regimen and my running journey instead of doing the same type of distance every single day. But it's just kind of an interesting reflection of consistency when it comes to that form of exercise. And maybe that can kind of be applied to other areas of our life. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally see that metaphor. What a great metaphor, because, people think, oh, I'm the leader. So if I fill my cup every day, it means every day I go in and I tell people what to do.
Right.
Yep, I led today. I came into the office. Nobody was doing anything. I started telling people what to do, and they got to work. Good job. I'm a leader. It's like, wow. Well, to use your analogy, is like, hey, maybe one day I'm telling people, hey, here's the plan and here's what you need to do. And the next day, I'm just walking around asking questions. How you doing? Is the plan working? Can you be more efficient? Is there a way to improve what I told you to do yesterday? And just listen. The next day, I'm listening to the customer. I'm not even talking to my team. I'm just talking to the customer.
Yeah.
The next day, I'm on vacation day, and I let them look around and go, hey, where's Lain today? Oh, well, he's not even coming in. It's like, well, we better solve our own problems.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see where that expands and broadens your capability as a leader to not decide I'm running 7 miles every day. That's what I do because I'm a runner and I'm consistent. And I'm a leader. I don't walk in and tell everybody what to do every day because I'm a leader and I'm consistent. It's like, yeah, well, that doesn't expand your possibilities. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling from what you're saying.
I love that.
And I want to be better at that. I was actually, I've been thinking about that for the last week. So it's weird you dug that out of me.
Interesting. Well, I love your thought process with that because not only is it like going a different distance each day, pushing your body hard one day, but then making sure to scale back the next day. You're also bringing a level of like different types of work that you're doing, which for me embodies like different runs. So like one day I may do like a light run. The next day I may climb a hill. The next day I may go on a trail. Mm-hmm. You're kind of explaining different like variables of work and leadership with the job that you entail. And there's different types of running also. So that metaphor is really interesting. I appreciated how you brought that up. That's where my mind went. And I love running trails right now. So every time I get the chance to switch it up, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, good for you. Oh, it's so fun watching you, find your fitness and emotional fitness and your spiritual fitness, and not religiously speaking, but just like I can see you carrying yourself in a really light way, knowing that you've been pushing yourself, not just at work, which you do so well, and you are always so committed to Odyssey and what we do, but you pushing yourself personally. And I know I've watched some of your videos on Run, Ross, Run, where it's pouring down rain and you're the only one out there. And, there's a lot of value in thinking I'm doing something that is difficult. And like you say so well in your videos.
Thanks,
it's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's awesome to see, man.
Well, I wouldn't be doing it without you. And I'm super blessed to be in a position and very lucky to be part of this amazing company. And it's helped me see things from a great perspective, that Leo Buscaglia started installing.
I got to find some of his quotes just to put up, because I don't know if many people know about him anymore. He's been gone for quite a while, but his stuff was so amazing. He had said such beautiful words about, he has one beautiful saying where essentially it's about judgment. And in this beautiful story, and I can barely remember it. I'm going to find it, but he's just talking about, hey, while you're critiquing me so harshly, you're losing sense of your own ways to improve. That's my memory of it, at least. And I watch that in people around me of like, wow, you're kind of becoming what you defy.
Interesting.
Some people are like, oh, I hate judgmental people. Like Sarah the other day, she was coming down on Bill, and all of a sudden you're like,
I'm
judging Sarah. Yeah. And you're like watching this happen going, I wish I could remember this Leo Buscaglia quote. Like you're doing it. And part of catching yourself being yourself is going, wow, I hate judgmental people. And I'm telling people about how much I hate it by judging other people.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that's tough.
We get so blind sometimes, and there's a great quote. It says, we see other people's flaws as permanent, but our own as transient. Think about that. We look at other people and we're like, well, Tom, he's just lazy, blah, blah, blah. And, he's just he's not very committed to his job. And well, he's always been that way. And we look at ourselves and go, well, I know I wasn't that committed last week, but I'll be better this week. Yeah. And we like immediately think, well, it's just transient for me. I can flip a switch and all of a sudden change, but they've been like that forever and they're never going to change. They're probably saying the same thing about us.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Lane's never going to change. He's like this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you're never going to change. And then what? We're both at, rock, paper, rock, and we're both rocks. Nobody's winning. Nobody's losing.
Yeah. It takes a special kind of approach daily to be able to truly catch yourself, being yourself in moments that happen throughout the day.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. And I'm not so sure anybody's really doing it at all times.
Yeah, I think we worked with a client, I think it was Williams Sonoma, I want to say, and one of their main themes was be humble and curious.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, those two words, be humble and curious, and ask yourself, next time somebody's giving you feedback or you're judging somebody, if you could pause and go, am I being humble and curious right now?
Yeah.
If I'm seeing somebody who's not engaged in their work at full force, if I was humble and curious, I'd probably go ask them like, hey, when you started working here, you were like so fired up and such a role model of what an ideal employee. And now I'm seeing you kind of waning, like what's going on for you?
Yeah.
I care about you. I want you to be at your best. What do you think has changed? And they might look at you and be like, well, you have put my fire out because you're so critical of my work. Or they may have and if I could be humble and curious, and if I'm humble and curious when somebody gives me bad news about me, I would listen and I would go, wow, that was probably hard for you to say.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to think about that. Put some space between what they've said and how you respond, stimulus response, and be humble and curious. Yeah. It gives you permission to grow.
Yeah. Humility is so key to just everything as people move forward, especially nowadays. I don't know if it's social media, or I don't know if it's, a lack of opportunities for people out there, but it seems like ego plays such a different factor in us nowadays, and it's hard to be humble.
We get so wrapped into the perspective or the image we have of ourselves, but not the ourselves we know we are, but the ourselves we want people to see us to be.
Yeah.
And we package it together in our social media. We put it together so perfectly in an email. We put it on our business card or our LinkedIn profile. And then we have to serve that image that we built. And when somebody might see behind it, we start to justify and defend. We start to distance ourselves from that person. And it makes us feel good in the moment, but in the moment we lose out on what we wanted most, which was the relationship or to grow or to, But man, I watched. I love my dad, and like I say, he passed on Labor Day, but he was not too curious about looking closely at his flaws. And he was so defensive, and I would watch how that impacted my mom and his relationship, which was great, 65 years together, but it could have been better. It was so hard to watch him be defensive at times when I would just look at him and go, why? Why are you not accepting what she's saying? It's so obviously true. But, he had his own childhood trauma he was working out. Yeah. One of my mentors, Bob Petrella, says, Lain, I'm more and more convinced that everything comes down to childhood trauma. And sadly, that's probably true.
Yeah,
there's some truth to that. We're all trying to make our parents proud, even if they're both gone, or the image of that they're watching us and they would be proud. If we could get ourselves to the fact that they're always proud, not because of us being perfect, but just because we're here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I had a couple New Year's resolutions that I was thinking about, which were not your average resolutions, but one of them was to be a good listener. I want to be a better listener. Really tune into conversations. I notice myself at times, if I'm listening to somebody, sometimes my thoughts will start racing after they've been talking for 7 to 10 seconds. And I'm not tuned into the moment and really, I'll pick it back up, but I noticed areas where I can improve there. So let's deliberately try to be a better listener. The other one was I want to dish out more compliments. And I think that that's something that may be a little lost in today's society. It's just there's a reluctance when we're around other people to notice something about them that is nice or that you like, and to just stop in the moment and say, hey, I like your shirt, or hey, those shoes are cool, or you look really nice today. And just to, so if we go back to the business of giving, how about giving compliments nowadays? Do you think that's something that's scarce, more scarce in today's society, or am I just not on track?
Gosh, you just reminded me of something that I always say, and this is, why so stingy with the likes? Why so stingy with the likes?
Yeah.
Like, we'll put something on social media and there'll be like 2 likes. And I'm just like, 5,000 views, 2 likes. You're like, why so stingy with the likes? Do they cost anything? People viewed something and they didn't just go, oh, click like. Somehow a like says something about us. Or we don't want them to feel all of that like. Or so I don't know what it is, honestly. And I'm free with my likes. As far as I know, they don't cost me anything. You might as well just throw them out there. And I do think that somehow maybe social media has changed the algorithm in our mind about compliments, that somehow we have a limited supply. And I do think also people think, well, if I like everything, then it starts to devalue my like. So, we all have friends who are like, my dad never said, I love you. Until on his deathbed, he looked at me and said, I love you, honey. And it meant the world to me. And my dad told me he loved me all the time. So I think I'd rather run the risk in my kids hearing it all the time than never saying it to them. Or my friends, like you say, hearing my recognition of how they look or something they said. I think we could definitely be better at that, because as far as I can tell, with depression rates and isolation and people searching for their own value, we're in like a desert of likes and people really feeling like people appreciate me being here. Now, you said 2 things there. And in the spirit of, I think, the first one, I forgot it. And what were the 2 things that you...
I wanted to be a better listener.
That was it, be a better listener. And see,
you forgot.
It wasn't that I wasn't listening, but if I was, like you said, like as soon as somebody starts talking, I call it when your engine's running. So as soon as you start talking, if my mind starts formulating what I'm going to say when you stop talking, then I'm not really listening. I'm preparing.
Right.
And then we are so trained and salespeople are particularly bad at this. As soon as the person starts talking about something, I start thinking of, okay, there's an area where I can talk about features and benefits. Here's how I'm going to address it, blah, blah, blah. And my engine's running. And meanwhile, that customer who I want to build relationship with mentions that their mom is in the hospital for cancer. And I'm thinking features and benefits. Okay, here. And I miss this gift that they're giving me of us connecting on the human side, because I'm thinking about the training I had on how to sell, and I'm not really listening. We're so good at preparing, and then when we're done speaking, our little voice starts reflecting and judging. And I can't believe I said that. I hope that was good enough. Their physiology looks like they don't like me anymore. It's like listening is like the gift of being present. And trusting that when they're done, you'll have the right thing to say.
Right.
You could even say, hey, I'm sorry I forgot what you said, but I was listening so carefully. Nobody's ever like, oh, I can't believe you weren't, It's like, hey, I'm listening to you. I'm really listening without preparing or reflecting.
Yeah, that's so funny, because as we're talking to each other right now, like in
We're
a
doing
podcast environment, it's like so hard to not have the wheels turning, thinking about how to carry on the conversation. I think for me, I have like emotional memory of being on air when I used to be a sports anchor for Action News Now here in town, where you're taught like, don't have dead air. Like when the news anchor's next to you and they stop talking, like you need to pick up the conversation as fast as you can, because the viewer at home will get an ick if there's a few seconds of dead air and nobody's talking. So you're deliberately taught to like make sure you pick up the conversation, which is really funny, because sometimes in our staff meetings, there's a lot of like downtime when nobody's talking after somebody said something. And my emotional memory is so triggered in those moments. I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody starts saying, Jonas, start saying something. Like, let's keep this going. Let's keep this moving.
Yeah.
So the wheels are...
maybe we need more dead air.
Maybe we do.
And in news, you probably even had a voice in your ear Did you have an earpiece
absolutely.
where somebody's like saying, okay, we got to go to a commercial?
Yeah,
or,
IFB.
Hey, Ross making it. What's it called?
An IFB.
What does that
You know how many times I took that thing out of my ear because someone was bugging me?
What does it say? What's IFB stand for?
I think it's inner ear feedback.
Oh, yeah. So think about that. Everybody has a voice in their ear all the time, whether it's somebody in the control room or your own voice where like, I don't like what they're saying. I'm mad. I'm going to get defensive. Or it's saying like, I think they like me, or I might get this job, or, we all have an IFB. And the question is like, how are we maintaining that? And what are we doing about what they're saying? Every now and then, like you said, just rip that thing out of your ear and just be present. Let it flow. That's awesome.
That's fascinating, because if I ever was facilitating a program, that would be a good kind of way to talk about an experience with me about the voice in your head.
We got to do this more, Ross. I am loving this because you're bringing up such good things, because as a facilitator, and every presenter struggles with this, and I'm sure if you're a presenter out there, trust me, what I'm about to say is true for all of us. No matter if you're a manager of a team and you're presenting to two people, somewhere in the beginning, middle, or end of that presentation, you start judging your presentation.
Sure.
You're watching their response and you're thinking this is going well, or this is going badly, or I didn't say that very well, and heaven forbid you misspeak or something. You're like, that's not perfect. And now you're reading their body language of how invested or how interested they are in your product or your conversation, and you start going, don't worry everybody, I'll have you out of here in 10 minutes, and you start downplaying the presentation. And even beforehand, you're throwing out disclaimers of like, hey, I only had time last night really late to work on this, so don't expect too much. And in the middle of that, like, how do you get to a place where when you're presenting, you're just clean with it and you're not critiquing yourself in the midst of your delivery, because it doesn't make you better. A singer is like that when they're just feeling it and they're singing, or they're feeling that song, or they're like critiquing and wondering how Simon Cowell's going to respond. We all have the Simon Cowell in our head that's just immediately like, I wasn't feeling you, dog, and all of a sudden you're like, this isn't for you. You shouldn't be a leader. You're not as good as the other leaders, and you're critiquing, and it just takes you down the rabbit hole, and it doesn't make you better. But as a presenter, it's tough to put your own judgments on hold, and the first judgments are on yourself.
Yeah. Well, when you mentioned something that's so prevalent today, and that's imposter syndrome, right? When we're in these moments and in these environments where we feel like we don't belong or we aren't prepared enough to be here. I know when I started my running journey, it was like a lot of the first initial experience running was as a total beginner. And then I got to a point where I was running every day, and it was like, well, like now is it okay to call myself a runner?
Can I buy some of those really short running shorts yet? Or do I still run in my basketball
I'm rocking
shorts?
some Hokas. I'm using an app to
like
track all my
from
runs.
the outside.
I've got a heart rate monitor. Like, am I a running imposter, or is this like actually legit now?
I look like a runner on paper, but in the spirit of thinking differently, when do I flip the switch and go, I'm a runner? Of course, I'm an athlete.
Yeah.
And, imposter syndrome is it's thrown around a lot these days. And I think somebody, once I thought, if you don't have imposter syndrome, you're probably a narcissist.
It's just a great quote.
Leaders of companies, if you don't feel a little like, wow, how did I get to be the leader of this company or this group, or how did I get to work at this, or we've been working with MBA students forever. And some of these MBA audiences are people that have a master's already, they're a doctor and a lawyer, and they got accepted into this MBA program, and they're like, I can't believe that I got in. And you're looking at them like, what is wrong with you? And it's tough, because somebody who doesn't have imposter syndrome is probably accused of being arrogant or egotistical.
Absolutely.
But it's a confidence you carry.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it is weird to wake up one day and go, I'm a grown-up. I'm the grown-up now. And I think a parent feels like an imposter when the hospital says, okay, you can take your baby home. And you're like, without supervision, and you're like strapping this little defenseless human into a car seat, looking at your wife or who you've had this child with, and you're thinking, is it can we do this? Am I a parent? And when you open your business going, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, or you advance in your career, you get that job, it's okay. In the spirit of being humble and curious, it's okay. It's you just being humble and be curious, and then, be present and just, of course, believe in yourself. Like, you know what? It's no accident I got here. Water seeks its own level. I'm in this MBA program because I belong in this MBA. I'm in this team because I belong in this team. I'm leading this company because I earned the opportunity to lead this company.
Yeah.
And just put aside that judgment, that voice in your ear that's like, yeah, but when you were a kid, you had a messy room. How are you going to be a systems analyst for a huge company? You're like, okay, childhood trauma. My room was fine. I was working things out. Embrace the moment.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like there's a parallel between people who have maybe those imposter feelings and humility. Yeah. It's like when you're having those imposter feelings, you're also just being humble in a way to how you're reacting to this kind of situation you find yourself in.
Yeah. And you know what? And I think the way you work through that is to just work really hard so that you believe you deserve it.
Right.
You don't think any of us think Michael Jordan had imposter syndrome, but he killed his imposter syndrome by knowing he had done the work.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, notorious for just outworking everyone with his 4-a-days and all this stuff. And it's like, if you look at him and said, do you have imposter syndrome? He would look at you like, if I did, I worked it to death.
Yeah.
It was undeniable that he deserved to be at that level because he knew he had put in the work to deserve it. And if we have imposter syndrome, maybe we haven't done the work, but know that you deserve the opportunity.
Yeah.
And do more work, fine.
Yeah.
But don't step away from that feeling because the opportunity, the door is open, and you're responsible to step through that door to find out what happens next.
Yeah. I hate when I feel like I didn't work hard on something, or like there's something that happens to me personally where it's like I have to work hard on this because I'm going to hate how I feel if I don't.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting.
No, I like that. I think people who have achieved high levels of success, the biggest way to insult them is to say, oh, you're so lucky.
Oh, yeah.
And they may accept, oh, yes, I am. But in the back of their mind, they're like, how dare you blame this on luck? How dare you look at what I've achieved and say that it was just luck? It could have happened to anyone.
Yeah.
And that's a very peaceful way to live, knowing that what you've accomplished, you've worked for. Yeah. I think the more you work, there's a very common saying, the hard work creates luck. The more you work, the luckier you get. And, you could throw up a 3-pointer or a half-court shot at the end of the game, and it goes in. There's a little luck to that, but you got yourself on the court with the ball, with the chance to lob it up there. It went in. And, I work with UC Irvine men's volleyball team, and we're trying to win a 5th national championship. And last year we got so close against UCLA, and they ended up winning for two in a row. And the coach he's so solid, David Niffen, around luck and around how much you learn from losing, and around, if you're going to go 5 sets against a team that is really talented, you're going to need things to go your way at a few of the big moments. That's just part of it. It's so razor thin, the difference between winning and losing. Life isn't that razor thin. It gives us years of opportunity. In a basketball game, you had 3 seconds, 3, 2, 1, and you had to take the shot. And in life, you got a 3, 2, 1, and then guess what? You get to get back on the court the next day. And the next day, or in a relationship, you get to have another conversation with the spouse. Like every day you're waking up going, okay, let's take another shot at this. It gives us the opportunities to create luck because it's not just a one-shot deal.
Yeah. That's interesting. You're making me think about one of the great quotes that you say, in life, you have the lesson, or in school, you have the lesson and then you have the test. In life, you have the test, and then you learn the lesson. And you're making me think about that a little bit with what you're saying. I also think I'm so grateful that when I was younger, I was placed into a sports environment where from just a young age, without you really, knowing what you're experiencing, you're put into an environment where you're working together with other people to try to achieve a common goal. And you're talking about UC Irvine, and you brought up Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And I think there's so many similarities between being on a sports team and trying to succeed that transfer over to a work environment and working with a group of people, at Odyssey Teams to try and achieve it. Like, we all play our roles. We're all trying to get, and that's just how it is at every business. Every business is a sports team of people just working together, trying to win, trying to succeed. So I think about those moments when I was growing up, and I'm just grateful for that.
It takes so much courage to step on the court and know that in 45 minutes or 2 hours, you're going to know whether you won or lost.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage. You may find yourself at the free throw line with the game on the line.
Whew.
And you might miss.
Yeah.
And knowing that your teammates will support you, appreciate you, you'll feel bad, of course. Hey, I wish I made every shot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, who doesn't? But it really gives you that humility. There's a great quote where one of the best players of all time, Djokovic, is talking about how many points he's lost. Mm. It's staggering. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of points he lost. He only won like 51% of his points. And he's the GOAT. He's won more than just about anybody and has this incredible record. And he knows you're going to lose some. And in sports, you're going to miss some shots. In baseball, you're going to strike out. The best hitters only hit, 30% of the time or something. So if a salesperson it only gets a hit 30% of the time, they think they're a terrible salesperson. Mm. It's like it really reframes learning, growing, the value of practice, the value of feedback, coaching. The ball gives feedback. If it didn't go in, hey, it's hard to argue with it. It was the net's fault. It's the customer's fault. It was the product's fault. It's like, no, you know what? I can do better at the part I play in this. Yeah. Tennis players play in the wind. It's like, hey, it's the wind's fault. If you come out with a mindset like that, like I'm going to find a reason why I failed, you're not going to get to your best. I love sports. It's just such a condensed way to see. And the scoreboard is often painful, but it tells the truth of the current state of you and against that opponent. And you'll have different opponents. Yeah. You want to win every game? Have your college team play against the sixth graders. They're going to win every time. It's like,
that's no fun.
No, it's not. See, and that's interesting you immediately say that, because that's right. We want to go up against the best.
Yeah.
We want to. Olympic teams want to play the best of all the other countries.
Yeah.
Because to know if you're the best or not, you got to go up against great competition, which is going to put the ball at risk, put you at risk, your belief about yourself at risk. And we are drawn to that.
Yeah.
At the same time, our psyche doesn't like the way it feels when we lose. So we have to increase our appetite for failure.
Yeah.
Our appetite for losing increases our desire for winning.
Yeah. Embrace that.
I want to say that again.
Yeah, that was good. Clip that.
Your appetite for losing.
My wheels were turning. I
got to try to say it again. Your appetite for losing increases your desire for winning.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think we're recording this.
We'll have to plow it. I hope so.
You mentioned tennis is fascinating.
I got a call in 7 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can pick up this conversation.
Tennis is fascinating.
Well, yeah. The format of scoring really caters itself to losing a lot. Like you mentioned the points. That's a really interesting thought. I bet tennis players make some of the best leaders in their second chapter of their life after their playing days are over, because it is such a humbling sport from the perspective of that even when you win a match, you've lost so many points throughout that match.
The opponent gets to start with an advantage. They're serving.
True.
Just like volleyball. The receiver has the advantage. And so the percentage of winning and losing and the difference between who won and who lost is minuscule. And that's why you really have to fight for any area of opportunity you can, and you get real humble and curious about finding those things. And in business, sometimes we look at this big picture and we don't really get down to the finite detail to improve at micro levels, knowing those micro levels will help. And there's a movie I know where he says, we fight for every inch. And I know you know this movie. Any Given Sunday, was that it?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
He gives this
Al Pacino.
passionate speech about that we understand the value of that inch.
Yes.
And that we are going to fight and claw for that inch, because we know that when you add those inches up, it will make the difference, you know? And it's like, that's just harkening back to what we talked about a while ago about these small inch by inch life's ascension, these small things, these subtle trajectory changes. A sailboat trying to hit Hawaii better be making micro adjustments all the way, because a small error in your navigational direction you will miss. And life doesn't always have these finite targets like that, but who we become is a target that we can all start to align to. Who do I want to be as a father? Do I want to be a learner? Do I want to be humble and curious? Do I want to be defensive, or do I want to be open to feedback? All of that creates this tapestry of me and you, at least at the current state of us. And what happens next? Well, that's the fun part.
You had me just thinking about something which I think would be fascinating. A documentary on some of the athletes who have missed the biggest shot or have struck out at the biggest moment, Game 7 of the World Series. And like how that experience transformed their life. I want to listen to that guy be a motivational speaker, their story, or that lady. I want to listen to that story.
Every celebration you can picture in your mind of an athletic team winning, making that full court shot. There's a coach and a team that's not on camera that is got their head in their hands, and they can't believe they lost.
Missed a Super Bowl field goal.
That's exactly. Oh my!
Could you imagine? Like,
amazing.
I want to pick the brain of that person.
Exactly.
Because I bet you there.
And it's not that those moments don't happen for everybody. It's what we do next.
Sure.
What do we do after that loss?
Well, we're gonna have to pick up this conversation again.
We will. Ross, love you, bud. Love talking with you.
Yeah, that was fun.
Let's get a series going. Let's just launch this whole thing, series after series after series.
We should have filmed this.
Who's made it to this point. No, I think this is kind of cool. Let's do some audio.
Okay.
I got to jump on
this
call in
a
a minute.
Thanks, Lain.
Awesome.